Hello coders, welcome to episode 156 of the How to Code Well podcast. Today we're going to be talking about testing and when you shouldn't test. Everybody talks about when you should test, as in all the time, but in my opinion, I think there are times in which writing tests for your code does get in the way, and I'll explain all those reasons in just a second. Now, this is a pre-recorded show, as you've probably already guessed. This isn't a live show. However, when I do these pre-recorded shows, I try and do them in one hit, rather than doing a lot of cutting and jump cuts and stuff throughout the edits. I don't bother with any of that. I try and do it from start to finish. And I've just, on the rare chance I have a couple of minutes free, or a couple of minutes, as long as this podcast takes over the lunch hour, I'm going to do that. And I don't know whether this is going to be the same thing going forward or not. You know, I know we've done pre-recorded shows in I think it's the last 3 episodes have all been pre-recorded. Last 2 were just out of the fact that I couldn't do the Thursday. And today it's just because, you know, I know that Thursday, Friday, I've got very busy evenings ahead. So I'm just wanted to try and get this done sort of beforehand, and there's something nice to being able to relax knowing that this is going out and being published. So yeah, I don't know whether this is the format going forward yet. I'm not too sure. I do think there needs to be a bit of live conversations. I do miss the comments and the chats, so maybe we'll do that again next time. Or maybe I'll do it so, I don't know, we do one live show every month or every fortnight or something like that. I don't know. Haven't decided yet. Anyway, let's move on to the changelog. So last week we talked about monorepos, and I gave my reasons as to why I have now converted, for the most part, a large portion of the How to Code Well platform into a monorepo. And it's an experiment, right? So it's one of these things that I'm just playing with. And I thought that I would just give you a little bit of a glimpse as to some of the pros and cons that I've already found with monorepos before we get into the testing stuff. And so I also mentioned that I want to add a forum to howtocodewell.net eventually. So this is where when you enroll in a course, you have the ability to ask questions on a forum board specifically for that course. Now I'm using I'm playing with a forum that I'm going to mispronounce. Florum. It's a Laravel forum in PHP, written in PHP, obviously. It's really good. It's, from what I can see, it's really good. I've got this set up at the minute on the development site, and one of the benefits of using a monorepo in this manner is the fact that the forum is in a container, right? And then the howtocodewell.net is in a container, and I want the forum to be accessed from howtocodewell.net/forum and then / whatever the course name is, right? So it's not a subdomain. It looks and feels like it's just a folder within howtocodewell.net, but it's not. It's actually a separate container. So in order for me to do that, what I've done is I've created like a proxy, reverse proxy in Nginx, using Nginx, which proxies all calls, all requests from / forum to that container, to the forum container, which means that I have essentially put a sort of a drawbridge, I guess, in between the public requests and the containers behind, which is great. We kind of did something similar to this with the API stuff back in the day when this was all in microservices. I haven't gone down that rabbit hole at all. Like all I've done the gateway for is just for this, right? So it's not as complicated as it was. Now, this is having this in a monorepo has helped, because the Docker Compose file that has all of the services, the forum service and the howtocodewell.net service, which I'm just calling web server or app. I think, yeah, it's app. So you got the app service, you got the database service, and you got the forum service. And there is a database for the forum as well, right? So you've got two databases, and you've got an app, which is the howtocodewell.net, and the forum. And there's various other services as well around. But, let's just focus on the forum and the app for now. So this is all handled on Docker Compose. Now, we have one single Docker Compose file, and it is sat at the root level of the project. And then in the project, at the root level, you've got the forum directory, and then you've got the website directory, which should really be called app directory. So yeah, having this in a monorepo has helped, right? Because I'm able to have multiple Docker files in these folders. I can define the contexts, and I can create the Docker Compose file all from one thing. Now, if this wasn't in a monorepo, you would have one repository for the forum, and you would have one repository for the app. And then you would have another repository for Docker Compose to bring everything together, which would just be terrible. And then on the README file, you would say, please check out this to this folder, please check out that to this folder, please check out that to this folder, and then run this command to bring up your containers. That's just a lot of friction, So I'm already seeing this pay off. Now, there is some negatives, and well, I wouldn't say negatives. There are concerns, right? So one thing I would love to do with this forum is have the ability that when you log in through the login form of howtocodewell.net, you're automatically logged in to the forum, and the forum knows automatically what forum boards you are a member of, because it knows what courses you've enrolled in. That is I suppose that's the MVP, right, for this forum. And I guess sort of going beyond the MVP, I would like to have when you log in to your dashboard of howtocodewell.net, you can see the forum posts that you've created and the replies and the comments and all of that stuff. So almost like a little feed, if you will. Okay, so let's just put a pin in on that and talk about the login stuff. So Florum, the forum, has an API. It's written really well, and you can make an API call to create a user and log a user in, right? So you register and log in. And so what I'm trying to do is alter the login form of howtocodewell.net on the dev side at least, to allow users to have that ability. So there's a couple of steps that need to happen. So you logged in. So now I need to work out what what user you are on the forum, and then marry up the forum boards to your enrolled courses and stuff. And Florum, I think that's the way to say it. It uses things like grouping groups and tags. So you can tag forums, and then you can add people to groups that are related to those tags. So that's working quite smoothly. However, I need to build the code to actually do that, right? So the groups and the tags, they're great. They work really well. It does mean that I'm going to have a lot of groups and a lot of tags, but whatever. So normally on a forum, you would have like a tag of, say, PHP, right? Or a tag of React. But in this case, it's a tag of the course name. So there's a couple of things that need to be kind of like, synchronized across the board. So we're using this API, and I started hacking on it last night, building it last night, and I started building a API client. One of the downsides of Florum, whatever it is that the API documentation isn't great. The API itself is written really well, and it kind of self-documents itself, but there are a couple of cases where you're scratching your head and you're thinking, is this the best? Is this what needs to happen? There isn't like a document that I've seen. There might be floating about on the net, and if you are a dev of Florum, or if you've used it before and you have a some documentation, API docs, then do let me know. I'm kind of looking for like just a Swagger or Open API documentation. That would be awesome. But anyway, I digress. So we're building this this API client, or I started it last night. Built this API client to allow users to register, and then you have to do another API call to then wire up the groups and the tags and whatnot against the user. Fine. And I'm thinking, well, hang on a minute. This little piece of code, right? That's all in the Flowerum folder of the howtocodewell.net src directory. This is something that perhaps I could give to the community in the future. It doesn't have to be closed source. Like the mono repo has to be closed source, right? Because it is how the platform of howtocodewell.net, right? It's my baby. But there are parts of that I wouldn't mind giving to the open sourcing, right? And this is the difficulty. This is the hybridness that I was talking about last week, where you have to sort of have parts of the code that is closed and parts of the code that could be open. So there's two trails of thought on this. One is that I'm only going to be writing the API client to the point in which I need it, right? So there's a lot of functionality that I'm not going to use initially, at least from Flowerum. So there's like likes and other things, listing groups and listing tags and stuff. I don't really need any of that at this stage. So there's no point in me actually writing the code for the API client for that, because I'm not going to use it. So there's that. So it might just be closed source. Also, I can't remember what the second trail of thought is. Yes, the second trail of thought is that I'm writing this using PSR 7. So it does have the ability for people to jump on and use it, right? Because it's following a given standard. I'm not following Symfony's HTTP client or the Guzzle or anything like that. It's just, PSR 7. I decided to create it as following as many standards as possible, so then it's easier to then update later. Also, I don't want to have dependencies on it, like a lot of dependencies on it. So dependencies of frameworks and stuff. Because I was thinking, why don't I just create a little micro frame or build this using a micro framework, and then hook into it, separate it out of the howtocodewell.net stuff. So it becomes its own library, its own package that I can inject. So yeah, I don't know. I can kind of see that this mono repo is going to turn into a hybrid repo, and I think where the line is drawn is when the code can be easily packaged up and doesn't. It's not giving too much away, right? So this API client is a very nice self-contained sort of, I guess you would call it a module, right, or a library, package. So that's something that could be given or put open source and used. Trouble is, though, yes, this was the second point. Trouble is, when you do this, is now you're saying that is a dependency out in the wild, right, that you depend on. And if you're depending on that in two places, right, you've got to make sure that the version numbers are correct on the wherever you're requiring it from. So you don't want to get into this mess where you've got this mono repo and there are certain parts of the mono repo that require the same thing but at different levels. That can get very messy very, very quickly. Anyway, we've spoken a lot about mono repos today, and today is supposed to be about testing. So let's bring it back to testing, right? So when should you not test your code, right? So this is a question that I've asked today, or I asked myself after the stream on Tuesday. So Tuesday the 12th, we did the live stream, and that live stream was on YouTube, and we were building the proof of concept around the PHP registration course. This is the second course that I'm building. And someone in the chat quite rightly piped up and said, "Where's PHP unit? What's going on with the tests? You're just throwing code. You were just cutting code. And I thought, after the stream, I think back on the chats and the comments that we have, and I was like, yeah, actually, where were the tests, man? And I think because it was a proof of concept. So to give you some context, what we're doing is we're building the course, and I have no idea the structure of the course. No architectural decisions have formally been made on this. It's going to have, I do know that there's going to be a profile page, a login page, a registration page, and we decided on the 12th that we're also going to have the ability to delete the account. So you would register, a record would be saved into the database. You would log in using the record in the database, and then you can update your profile based on the record in the database, and then you can delete your account. So that covers the select query, the insert query, the update query, and the delete query. That's why I've done it. And we're not using a framework. We're just building this in pure PHP. We're using PDO, and everything's good. But there does need to be a sort of an architecture, a foundation, if you will, of how the code all hangs together. So the way I've got it so far is that we've got a user manager, right? And the user manager extends an abstract manager, so a class called abstract manager, which has abstract methods in that every manager should have. And then we have a DB class that does the connection of the database. And then we have some sort of abstracted sort of query methods. And I can already see, so we've done the select query, we've done the insert query, we've done the update query. Next week, we've got to do the delete query, and then that's the querying sort of done in the sort of the proof of concept way. We also have to build in some form of controllers. So some way of saying that this page that I'm on is the page that I want, and I click this button, it goes to this page, and I'm somewhere to put the business logic and somewhere to render the code. So in the previous PHP course that I did, the logging course, that we'll talk about that more in a minute. What I've done is I've sort of combined the view and the controller together. If you're talking in the sort of the CRUD way, so you've got the HTML, and then above that you have PHP open and close tags. This might have to be the way it goes for this course. I'm not 100% sure how I'm going to deal with that. But essentially, in terms of the database calls, at least we are building a little framework, if you will, a little PHP framework. And I'm literally just throwing code to the screen, to the IDE, and just seeing what sticks. The thing is, when I'm doing this live, and I suppose when I don't do this live, when I'm just making something, right, I find that I have the knowledge of the code, or how the code it should be in my head first before it goes on the screen. So I'm constantly trying to get it out of my head as fast as possible, because once that idea has come out of my mind, then another idea pops up and another idea pops up, and it's like this conveyor belt. When I'm in the zone, it's almost like a conveyor belt of code, right? And sometimes I get annoyed because I can't type quick enough for my mind to, come up with, to get to the next idea, right? And it's this problem is amplified when I do anything live, because there's a lot of things that you have to concentrate on. So the code, the idea of what you're going to write next, and the chat and everything else, and the actual, the live stream, the bit rates and all of that. There's a lot to concentrate on. There's a lot of things to juggle when you're doing it live. Now, none of this should be an excuse as to why you shouldn't test your work. However, I do think that there are times, especially at the early stages of development, where testing does actually get in the way. And I'm talking I'm talking out of experience here. I've been a dev for a long time. And I've done both the whole, no, we must test everything from the get-go, before we even write a single line of code, there needs to be a test. The pure TDD kind of way. And I don't know whether this is a personality trait. I've got no idea. But sometimes that just feels like it gets in the way. It's like I have to write the test first, but I haven't actually got the thing down on paper yet. I don't even know. For me, it's a case of looking at the code and just seeing if it looks nice. Just feeling if it looks nice, You get a feel for it as it goes through, especially when you're doing object-oriented stuff, when you've got objects hanging off of each other, and you've got different architectural patterns, design patterns that you're throwing together. There is a flow. And I do feel that at the early stages at least, that flow gets disrupted when you test things. And I suppose I haven't. So in some cases I've done pure TDD, right? But more than not, it's more like I threw this code together to see what sticks. Now it's time to actually put this down into concrete. And at that point, I'm going to actually properly test it. I've done it like that more often than just hitting TDD first, because I find that when I'm writing code, I'm thinking about the next line of code. I'm not thinking about the code that I've just put on the paper, because that's out of my head now. That's just on screen. It's the next line of code, and the next line of code, and the next line of code. Oh, and that can go into there, and we can do this, and it becomes a flow. It almost becomes a little dance on the screen. And I do feel like testing at breaking that up is just going to break up the flow. However, this means that there needs to come a time where you go, right, this thing that I've just thrown on the page just to see how it sticks and how it feels and how it looks. I actually need to commit this now and actually, properly think about this from a refactoring point of view and testing point of view, right? So I need something to prove the architecture that I've thrown together. So there needs to be so testing, in my opinion, is super important. And I've always said that. But I think that there is a time in which testing is more important than, when you're just throwing things together. So I find that writing code, just throwing code on the screen, is almost like writing UML diagrams on a whiteboard, right? I'm literally just throwing things at the page just to see what sticks, seeing where the program flows to, where it's going, where it shifts, where it turns, right? And then throwing it away, and then doing it better, and then sort of that rinse and repeat process. But at some point, there needs to be a time where you draw a line in the sand and go, okay, this now kind of works, so now we need to actually write some tests around this to back this up. And I think that is important. I think it's important to know when that time is. And in the context of what I'm doing, like I said, we got the delete query to do. That's going to be, that's not going to take long. Then we need to do the controller stuff. I want to get a feel for how that looks and feels. Already, I'm seeing some big places in the database side that needs refactoring, and I am restricting myself from doing the refactoring now because that's what the tests are going to be, right? So in my head, I know that I want to change some things and change the names of methods and move code and do various bits and pieces to it to make it flow nicer, right? But because I've got the queries working, I can not do that And then once I have more of a flavor of how the shape of the rest of the code is going to look like, after that, I can then go, right, let's look at this from a TDD point of view. And I think what I'm going to do is just create another folder and start moving code into this new folder, but do it in a TDD kind of way. Okay, so we need this, right? So we're going to write that. Okay, so we need this, right? So we're going to write that test. Okay, so we need, and then do it like that. So we almost, it's almost like when you've got a sketch, and you're converting a sketch to a painting, right? So the sketch, you're just throwing it, you're just writing it, you're drawing it really fast. So maybe it's something that you don't have you're drawing a building and you don't have a lot of time, so you're just throwing shapes together on the page, and then once you're happy with it from a very raw, basic sort of level, you can then go home, and then when you're at home, you can then actually paint it using watercolors or whatever you've got. But you do that from that sketchy thing that you've just done, that you did when you were there, when you were drawing the building. That's how I see it. Now, a lot of people are going to go, oh, no. You need to test it, straight away. As soon as you write code down, there needs to be a test to back that up. But like I said, this is all very loosey-goosey right now. So there we go. So in my opinion, you don't have to test everything all the time. There is a point in which you can change from being super creative to being super conformative. And there's a lot of things that I play with that just that doesn't have any tests, right? Because I'm playing with it, I'm experimenting, I'm trying things out. So I think there is a point in which tests matter more and tests matter less. So there we go. Right, I'm going to shoot off. Happy coding, everybody, and I'll see you on you'll get this on Thursday, so I will see you on the Sunday. And on Sunday, we will finish, or hopefully finish, the PHP login course that I mentioned earlier. And we've got lessons 9 and 10 to do. And so I've already done all the code and stuff. What we're doing is rebuilding the stuff based on the documentation and making sure that the documentation makes sense. So once 9 and 10 are done, I can then record it. I now have my voice back, so I can do that. And then, we'll progress even further with the howtocodewell.net stuff. That will come back to our Twitch streams. So at 3 p.m. on Sunday on Twitch, twitch.tv/howtocodewell, we'll be working on lessons 9 and lessons 10 of the PHP login course. And then next Tuesday, we'll be working on youtube.com/howtocodewell. I will be live, and I'll be doing the delete query and looking at how we can shape and model the controllers of the PHP registration course. And then after that, it's just a case of on Twitch, getting back to howtocodewell.net. I'll demo the forum, and hopefully there'll be a lot to talk around that and do, because I haven't done that much on stream recently because I've been doing the other things. And we'll just continue the registration course on the Tuesday show. That is going to, I've got a feeling this is going to be a long one. It's going to be a long course, but that's cool. I'm all up for that. And then in the background, I'll be doing the recording for the PHP login course. That is essentially the shape of the next couple of months. So there we go. Happy coding, everybody. Take care. Cheers. Bye-bye.